Yeah. Little ice on the lake out here.
Ooh, is it?
Oh, yeah. It's getting nippy.
I'm a little jealous. I mean, not the nippiness. We had that yesterday. Yesterday was like the first run I went out, and I was like, man, it took me like a good 15 minutes to get like in a flow. It was like, I think 21 here yesterday morning, which isn't like overly cold, but it was like the first like real legit, like, man, this is a cold morning. It took me at least probably 20 minutes to kind of get into my run. But yeah, a little iciness. I mean, hey, I'll take it, because there was a hot Sunday was like 65. I was like, whoa. Can we get back? Once I'm in the cold, I'm ready for the cold. And hopefully it's here. Hopefully it's here to stay. Time to hibernate, time to do a few things. It is the day before Thanksgiving. It is November 27th, the year. It's 2024. Welcome aboard, everybody. You're listening to the Crushing Iron Podcast, and this is episode 817.
You mean to tell me you weren't in top form immediately when you started running? You had to actually get through some struggle?
Oh, man, listen, dude, you and I talk about this a lot off the air, but if I stopped every run I had if I had like a niggle, or I felt like both my like two left like middle toes were not broken, I would never run.
Yeah, exactly.
I legit like I usually give myself time to make it out of the neighborhood, like depending on what route I take, and sometimes I'm kind of torn because, and I think a lot of people have this dilemma, is sometimes I'm like, you know what? Let me take the uphill route to get out, right? Because that'll probably help me engage my glutes and probably increase my running economy, my efficiency. I'll keep things slow. I'll make sure I'm keeping my heart rate down. Let me do that. But then some days I have like a slight little downhill, and I'm like, but it feels so good to like come out of the gate and open up the legs, and like it helps you increase your turnover. And I always kind of like debate, like stand in the driveway for about, I don't know, it's a real long debate, like 3 seconds when I decide what route to take. But dude, regardless, it still takes me at least a mile before I'm like, oh, all right, this doesn't feel half bad. I don't feel like I should quit running. It just takes me that, especially in the cold, it just takes me that long to like loosen up, and it not just from like my like niggles and being old and all that kind of stuff, but like to get my breathing under control when it's that cold. It takes me a bit to kind of get like a nice good breathing pattern going, where I'm breathing like because of the level I'm running, not I'm breathing because I'm like, my heart rate and my respiratory rate is higher because I'm actually like very cold.
Yeah, I always feel like there's a certain body protection device or something that every time we start running, it's kind of like, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you running from? There's nothing there. And it just,
what are you running from?
It's hard to, it's like you almost have to get to a point of relaxation, and it takes a minute. Why are you running, bro?
Exactly what you're running. You're running from something, you're running to something. That was one of my mom's like old school, like, when you're making decisions, make sure you're running from something or you're running to something. But yeah, dude, it's part of getting old. You know what? That's okay. I'm still, and like you said, I haven't reached my peak yet. I'm 44. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving. Before we get rolling today, hope everyone has a wonderful holiday. I have a confession.
Uh-oh.
The tree is up in my house before Thanksgiving. It's a Wednesday. It's not Thanksgiving. It's not even after Thanksgiving.
Oh, boy.
Not even the day of. Not even the morning of. But it's up. I didn't put it up. I didn't touch it. I didn't participate in the construction process of or the removal, which is the most important piece of the Thanksgiving holiday spirit that was in my house that is no longer with us, and just bypassed like a source, a poor soul on the side of the road just asking for help. Steamroll into Christmas.
So you're not an accomplice. You're an innocent bystander who's been usurped by Christmas.
That is a perfect way to put it. Yeah, I mean, my in-laws are in town, so I mean, listen, I'm just trying to survive right now. Okay, so you pick your battles, and right now I'm just trying to keep my head down. Is just disappointed and is dismayed and dejected. I'm not an accomplice. I did not participate in this, so I feel like my hands are clean. Hayden isn't too thrilled either. So, but we're just trying, listen, during the holidays, we got a lot to be thankful for. You pick your battles. You just keep your head down, keep your nose clean. You come out on the other side. So, but I did want to just get that out there because, it helped me kind of cleanse the soul a little bit. But I'm not comfortable with it. The ornaments are not on the tree, which I think is like the main thing. So it's really just a cake with no icing and no sprinkles. It's just barren. I mean, it's got some lights. So let's say it has some like sprinkles inside the cake, but whatever. It's up. I'm not happy about it. But
the tree decorator is going to show up Thursday night like Santa does the night before Christmas. You're going to wake up to lights on that tree on Friday. And I think people are feeling hopeful, man. Let's go for it.
I know they are. I know. Listen, if I can instill just a little bit of hope, and you know what? Tis the season. I told Hayden, I said, listen, I'll slip you an extra 5.
I thought you were going to
say
a honey.
Between today and tomorrow morning, just find a light that you like the most. Just give it a little bit of an unscrew. That's it. That's all I'm asking here. Take out one bulb, you take off the whole tree. I mean, the fascinating is one bulb does the whole tree in. So we'll see how it goes, but it's up. Anyway, outside of that, we do hope you all have a fantastic Thanksgiving tomorrow and spend some time with your family, spend some time with friends, hang out, enjoy yourself. Should be some good football on the next few days. So, yeah, kick back, relax, enjoy your favorite food, whether it's with family or friends. We got a nice little uplifting topic for today. But before we get into that, if it's your first time tuning in today, welcome. We appreciate you giving us your time. We know you have quite a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general. Time is very valuable. So we appreciate you in the day. We cover it all. We do swim, bike, and run specific podcasts. We do race recaps and also a lot of race previews. But for the most part, Mike and I, as coaches, athletes, best friends, we just sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through in life, not just as human beings, but also as coaches and athletes ourselves. Mike and I work with a wide range of athletes all across the globe, from beginner level athletes looking for their first 5K or sprint triathlon, all the way up through elite level amateurs trying to get back to our championships, and everyone in between all over the globe. We use the feedback loop we have with them and Training Peaks emails, text messages, and the like to drive the discussion of the day. We also like to utilize our Facebook group. You can search that, Crushing Iron Group. Answer multiple question. We'll let you right in. Awesome people, fantastic community, and a pretty solid resource in a sport that has got a lot of information coming from a lot of different directions. It is a nice, safe, actionable space to get great information and advice from seasoned veterans and actually a couple of rookies. We're doing our best in there to hopefully allow you to avoid some of the same pitfalls and obstacles we've had along the way. We go in there about once a month, every 3 to 6 weeks, do a bit of a Q&A, take the pulse of the community, and answer as many of those questions as we can on the podcast. But that is it. We have no sponsors. We have no ads. But we do have an agenda that we're very transparent about, and that's to do our best to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah, it was a 6. I closed strong. I didn't practice at all. I'm just gonna be transparent about that too. Just it's confession day. Didn't practice a lick, and obviously still need to. But I'm happy with how it ended. I started off a little bit rusty, and I feel like I closed hard. So like we say with our workouts, it's not how you start, it's how you finish, and you should always leave your workouts feeling better than when you started. And that's how I feel right now. So I look forward to coming back next week and trying to do better.
Yeah, back to before that, and when you mentioned some good football on, actually, I've kind of decided that it's actually basketball season now. So we're not really paying attention to the football games. Now we'll do that a little bit, but
Dolphins play the Packers, man.
Oh,
tomorrow night. Yeah. Big rivalry.
That's interesting. Tomorrow?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that could get your juices flowing tomorrow night. You have to keep me updated because I go to bed at halftime, but still, one of us will be awake for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, basketball season's here. Tennessee hoops looks good. Anyway, before we get too into it, if you're still with us, we did well, obviously with Thanksgiving around the corner. We talked a little bit about, and we talk about this a lot actually, about just being grateful and positive and thankful about being able to do the things that we do, right? The fact that we can run, we can swim, we can bike, regardless of the speed and the endurance that you have. It really is an incredible gift that we've both been given, but also many of you have earned, in the diligence and consistency and commitment levels, and always having motivation or not having it and still getting it done. I was yesterday, I don't know, I was like right before I was going to go into bed. So, early, like 8:30 last night, my father-in-law, he was doing a crossword puzzle. And also this morning when I got up at 4:20, I got up and went downstairs, grabbed my cup of coffee, which, again, in-laws are here. I like to have my first cup of coffee with no one around. But there he is, kitchen counter, doing his crossword puzzle. And I just said, man, how many of those do you do a day? He said, I don't know, probably 8 or 9. He said, it keeps my mind sharp. And I read books, and, I wrap my congressman every month, and, all these kind of things. And he's like, it just keeps my mind sharp. And I said, well, if you don't, if they say, just like the body, if you don't use it, you lose it. And, and then I started thinking about my mom and how she's, for her age, she's very, like, she has a great memory. She's very articulate. Like, you can tell she's not skipping a beat, where I know people that are, you're probably the perfect case, right? Of a guy who's mentally, emotionally, still like clicking on all cylinders and physically in great shape. And I know people like 10 years younger than my mom or a year older too, that you would think they were 95 with like dementia. It's insane how, especially like the mind goes, but also like how and she's always treated her body well. She's still to this day, even with really bad arthritis, gets out and walks as much as she can. And she tries to do whatever she can to be active. Just before we went live on this podcast, my father-in-law went out to take a walk for 45 minutes. Like, he was like, I have to walk every other day at minimum. And so it's just a good, reminder. Obviously, we talk a lot about triathlon, endurance sports, and doing all these crazy, events that we sign up for. And mostly, it's triathlons, but even like, 5Ks, 10K, anything, right? I just think we live in such a world now that's become so sedentary and unhealthy in so many ways, that I think it's always a good time as we peer into next year and try to decide where we want to get better and look back and think about the ways we can improve on. I always think it's great just to give credit really to ourselves, give ourselves a good little pat on the back for being not one of the few. Man, I don't know what the percentages are, but it seems like one of the few that is out there being active, taking care of themselves, being healthy, and honestly just being able to do things that most people just aren't capable of doing. And I think that's the part that I always find interesting, is that they'll say they don't want to do something, but I think in like the reality of the situation is that they just know deep down inside that even if they wanted to, in their current state of health and fitness, that they can't. And I think that's like a way a lot of people, I think you've told many stories like this about your old college buddies or friends from high school. They hear about what you're doing. They always kind of like, why are you doing that? It's in here. And I think a lot of that just comes from like, people know deep down inside, they can't do it. They're just not physically capable of doing it. They're not healthy enough to do it. They could 100% do it. Right. We've all seen like stories of people changing their lives through all different kinds of methods and events and sports, giving up, vices and turning their life around, doing whatever it is. There's a lot of good that's come from it, obviously, for most people. And if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably one of them. But yeah, I think it's always a fun little time as we do our usual like holiday shortcast to, remind ourselves how nice it is to not be on the other side of the coin most of the time.
Yeah, it's, I like that little story about the crosswords and keeping sharp. And my thing kind of always is just my sort of mantra is to feel younger as I get older. Whatever that takes, sometimes that is, or often that is, doing stuff like we were saying about, the run earlier, about how you just kind of got to get out and force yourself through it and, do something that I think makes you feel good. I sent out an email to the athletes yesterday about, be confident just feeling good. That's okay. It's like we can leave. It was sort of like that line of, training or exercise should make you feel better, not take energy away. And I'm really big on that concept of doing something and, just being okay, feeling more energized instead of always thinking you got to drain yourself out, especially this time of year. And you're right, man. Everybody listening to this podcast has earned. It's just hard to keep a perspective on it. I think a lot of times, like, because you feel, you can, in training for triathlon, you made this decision to get into this sport and you're trying to put together swim, bike, run, and it can feel overwhelming. A lot of times you feel tired or whatever, and you feel sorry for yourself and question your decision to get into this sport. But in reality, if you had the ability to take that sort of step back and view from, a long way away, it's like, man, you're doing pretty good. You're probably doing a lot better than you think you are. And, you mentioned in the intro, of course, I always, it always stands out to me when you say you have a lot of different options, and people do have a ton of podcast options. We've been doing this around 10 years or something like that. And, another one of my things is, if you're getting older and you're feeling, kind of the same, that means you're getting better as you get, like at a certain point, like when you get a little bit older, and if you're kind of keeping the same times, I think in a way that means you're getting faster because you're holding on, and I know a lot of older people get faster and everything like that. But, the point is that, it's just kind of to stay right about the same is a really good thing. And that's pretty much what I think our podcast has done. We've kind of hit a spot at one point and we're just holding strong, and thank you to everybody that keeps listening because, we've had 817 podcasts, and like, as my hometown friend said at podcast number 3 or whatever, these guys are going to run out of topics. They're never going to last. And it was a guy I kind of knew who left a comment in iTunes. I was like, man, that's not cool. But we've did it. And, again, it's like, I don't know. Are we getting like breaking speed records or download records? Probably no, but hanging in there. And I think that means that's a win.
Well, I always find it interesting. Most people say, man, like, and I'll be honest, I hear a lot of people say this about you, where they're like, man, I want to look like that when I'm that age.
Yeah.
And when everyone said, but very, very few people say things like, man, I really hope I can move like that at that age. And I went back like 2 weeks ago, I sent out in one of our emails about like this Decadeathon, which was the list of events I wanted to finish or complete over the next decade. And I talked a lot about how like we get so stuck in this cycle of life where we have to do everything this year, and as soon as something comes up or doesn't happen or gets in our way, it just really ruins our year. But when you take like this really long-term approach, of looking at an entire decade, and I've been in this sport for 2 decades, so it's like really not that long when you think about it. And it also like gives you a lot less pressure of when you have to do them. You could do 3 in 1 year and none for the next 2 years, and still feel like you're on track to do like 1 a year. But I got the inspiration from that from another podcast I was listening to, Peter Attia, the Drive podcast. He did one very similar, but he was talking about the training he's doing right now, so he can complete these 10 items in the last decade of his life. So in the last decade of his life, he listed all these things out that he wanted to be able to accomplish to make sure it gave him the highest chance of the highest quality of life, down to, being able to pick up something of a certain weight. That way, at that stage in life, if he's, his spouse is still around, he would be able to pick them up and carry them to safety or to the hospital. All these little things I think we never think about. We get so trapped in and it was really fascinating to listen to. And I think everyone would have like a different list of like what's important to them from like a health standpoint and then a longevity standpoint. And he's got a book called Outlive, which is about longevity. It's really interesting. But anyway, that's what was the inspiration of that. But when you go back and you think about thinking about what we do now and its impact on what we're able and capable of doing later, I think we just grossly underappreciate the long-term benefits of what we're doing that, again, we might not see in athletes specifically, right? Because most in people, right, we're mostly all about the short term. We're very impatient. We want to see results now. But like every time you go for a run, every time you even go for a brisk walk, right? Every time you turn down like enormous amounts of shitty food, or you turn down like the extra 6, margaritas, or you go for a long bike ride, or you go for a walk in the woods, or you do things with a group of friends, or you sit down and have a cup of coffee with the buddy and have a 3-hour conversation about looking at your phone, or you go for a 2-hour swim. Like all those things, while they might not individually impact directly or guarantee, right, longer, better quality of life, they sure as hell increase your chances. And so like all the things we do now, as much as we get caught up in the minutia of watts and where I was last time and my threshold and my pace today and my Strava segments and my new FTP and my new fancy swim goggles or this race PR or making the podium, like, or not making it, right? And we get hard on ourselves. Like, what we're doing right now is setting ourselves up for success. And again, nothing guarantees anything, right? Things happen and life happens, but are you or are you not increasing your chances to have a better quality of life in the future? And that's something that I don't think about mortality all the time, but I definitely have the last year or two. Is as my grandmother passed away, and then look at my mom is aging, and a lot of athletes that I coach, and you coach too, right? And we're in this stage. If you're in like that 40 to 55, 60 range, like you're getting close to that stage where you're having to take care of your parents and your kids at the same time. And I've got a lot of athletes going. I'm looking up to where my mom is still, just still with it and doing everything that she can, everything she wants to do. But like, I think about stuff like that. Like, when that time comes, if that time comes, how am I going to be resilient enough to handle that in the best way possible? And yeah, a lot of that is mental, emotional, but I also firmly believe that the better like health you have allows you to be more resilient in those really hard times, right? And so I think about being able to do things with Hayden for a long period of time and keep up with him outside and outrun him and ride his bike and play with him. And like, so not being able to do those things, it comes across my mind a ton. Is it like the driving factor of what gets me out of bed to do a run? Never. But it is something that I think about like over the course of a week, maybe once or twice, like, man, like, and you may come across, someone that you see that looks relatively unfit or unhealthy, or sitting on the side, or sitting at a table watching their kids play, unable to participate because of lack of health, lack of mobility, lack of overall physical fitness. And to me, it's like very similar, like to seeing, someone who's in like deep in their alcoholism, like that could be me. But on the flip side, like that, the lack of health, lack of physical, abilities, that could also be me. And so everything that we do benefits us in a great way in our ability to have a very, very, not very high, but like the highest quality of life you're going to have. So everything that we do has a net positive. Again, is it a guarantee you're always going to have it? No, but it sure as heck increases. Like that's that quick story I shared a few weeks ago about the guy that I was talking about who got paralyzed, became quadriplegic, playing football, and the fact he just ran a half marathon. And his doctor said, like, there is no way, shape, or form he would ever be able to do anything like that had he not been a high-level athlete before. He'd be sitting in a wheelchair, drool coming out of his mouth with someone feeding him food. But instead, he's walking around doing half marathons, defying all odds. And to not as such as a severe, like traumatic like effect, but like what we do now also sets ourselves up for success in the future to when these fail opportunities, these obstacles, or these things happen to us that we cannot control or that do happen, you're in a better spot to be able to handle them. And I just think that that's something that we oftentimes totally miss out on when we get so caught up in these minor details of improvement and performance, and then forget about overall, quality of life, or at least increasing it, mentally, emotionally, and physically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like that, setting yourself up for later in life. It's back to this Peter Attia thing. He's setting himself up to do things the last 10 years of his life?
Yeah, the
Like,
last
what kind of
decade
things
his
is he
life,
doing?
things that he wants to be able to accomplish. The most, it's all fitness related.
So how does he know what his last 10 years are? First of all, he might have
He
a
does.
whoop strap
Yeah,
that
he
fucking
doesn't
knows
know,
that by
but
now.
this
That
is
guy.
the things he wants to be able to accomplish. When he's at a certain age.
Oh, he isn't talking about the actual events.
Oh yeah, no, they're not events. They're like everyday life type of things that he wants to be able to do at what more than likely could be his last week of life, or not week of life, decade, right? And it's got to do with like a mobility and longevity, be his VO2 max, what it might be, being able to do certain things like going up and down the stairs. Like it was a really it's really interesting to hear. Like he called it the Centenarian Decathlon. It's just a marginal decade that is the last decade of your life, and he just kind of went through like things that are basically, it's like physical, the period of life where your physical health declines and also your cognitive health more than likely declines. And so obviously you can't ever know what that is, but you can not assume, we're all going to have, right, a last decade of our life. We never know when it's going to be. It is totally unpredictable. We don't get like an alert on our phone that's like, hey, today begins the last decade of your life. So you never have it. But so to start preparing for something that's so unknown, I also have a lot of respect for, in that no matter what happens, you're always going to be set up further by success, by what you're capable of doing and what you want to do now. And I would imagine all of us at certain ages, as we see our parents decline, either at a very rapid rate or a non-rapid rate, think that's exactly how I want to be when I'm that age, right? I want to be that, I want to have that kind of cognitive health and still be with it. I want to have that kind of same physical health. Or you might think of the opposite. That is not how I want the last decade of my life to be. And so again, like, can you guarantee those things? No. Do you know when that decade is going to start? No. Can you do things to set yourself up for success better for when that happens, and either delay effects, postpone effects, erase effects, or increase your chances? 100%. And I think that starts at whatever. I mean, it's like, it's almost like a healthy, your overall health. It's kind of like the compounding interest, right? From the time you're 20, if you're just putting in little deposits all the time in your fitness and health bank, then over time that just eventually adds up to like this really incredible, piece of physical fitness and overall health that you have. Every time when you don't do it, or you yo-yo back and forth, like, you go all in and you go all out, and you go in and you go out, like you're not doing that. And you can start that again by doing small things, right? I'm not talking about reinventing the wheel every week. We're talking about, or even year, just again, making small deposits, making, we say small ball all the time, playing small ball every day. The 20-minute runs, they add up. Because listen, the 20-minute runs that you scoff at is still more than probably 99% of the average American runs each day.
I don't scoff at him.
I know you don't, neither do I, but a lot of people scoff. I'm like, what's the point? You're like, do you see anyone else? That's why when you go out in the neighborhood and you're the only one running, and there's 1,000 people in your neighborhood, or you're the only one. And I think one, I think it's a problem, but two, it's just, I think, again, like these little friendly reminders of the things that we're capable of doing, or that we should do more. Right. It's like, doesn't just impact our race season, but impacts, the future quality of life that we're going to have. And honestly, and the example that we set for those around us and for our kids, or our partners, or our spouses.
Yeah. I for some reason, I thought that Attia thing was like setting up 10, like, things you want to do in the next decade.
Oh no, I mean, yes, I mean, like things he wants to be able to do, not like events. But yeah, it was a really interesting podcast to listen to.
Yeah, you're right. I do coach a lot of athletes in their 50s. I'm 61, and one of them the other day we were texting back and forth, and he said something about pains, dealing with some pains, and then he texted back, "Getting old sucks!" ! And I said, "I have a theory, dude. Never say those words." because the more you believe that shit, the more you're going to fall into the mainstream trap of people saying getting old sucks. And it's like I always say, it's sort of, you know, you got to figure, you can't let that get into your head, because the minute, see, it's like, I think if I ran, say, or I did something 2 days ago and it felt really good, right? And it was kind of hard or whatever. And I'm like, damn, I still got it. And then 2 days later, I might feel tired or sore or something like that. And I can't give in to the idea that, oh, I guess I'm getting old now, because 2 days ago, I did not feel this way. So I always try to bring that forward. You know, like I have a good day. I'm like, okay, I still got it. I'm not losing anything really compared to, you know, maybe what 5 years ago. I was like, this is the kind of shit I would have done 5 years ago. All right, that's good. I'm still there. So I'd lean on that more than I'll lean on, oh, I feel tired and I'm old today. You know, I can't let that get in my head. And I think so much of this stuff is mental anyway. I think everything, or not everything, but so much about training is mental, and even racing. And it's just so weird to me how that connects, you know, and I think about, you know, things like, you know, connecting with vibrations in the universe and things like that. And I think sometimes we just get in a negative vibration cycle, and that doesn't mean we can't come out. But the more you kind of trap yourself or say those types of words, the more you're in that negative vibration cycle. So you have to just continually, and it's not like lying, it's just coming out of it. You know, like if there's a happy energy or a positive energy going on, you know, I had that interview with Matt Clark the other day, our coach, and I asked him, I was like, how do you stay so positive? And he goes, oh, I just wake up every day and say, this is going to be a great day. And a lot of people, you know, including me, sometimes are like, I don't know, dude. But really, it might be as simple as that sometimes, is not, you know, acquiescing to the idea that, you know, nah, what a shitty, you know, day or whatever. You can, and I just think it's a habit, you know, a lot of times. And, you know, I fall prey to it, but I really try not to let myself go there. And even, you know, just a simple thing is sort of like some days I can wake up and I can really feel that. I'll be like, damn, I'm getting old, you know, like I don't say anything to anybody, but I kind of like it curses around in my brain a little bit, but it can change, you know, certain, you know, I can do a few things, whether maybe drink a little more water or move around a little bit or do something that feels good. And then later in the day, I'll be like, damn, I'm going to go run. And see, and it like shifted within the same day. And I think those types of things are very fascinating. You know, you can't just kind of give in, but that doesn't mean you have to like overpower it either. You can kind of shift and ebb and flow through the day and kind of change the way you feel, change your perspective, all these types of things. You know, I'm always talking about this concept of transition, you know, T1, T2, TL, T in life, transitions in life. And how do you get from one point to the other? It's just like some days you just might not think you have it, but then 4 or 5 hours later, it's a whole different ball game. So I think it's a lot of that is about having grace with yourself. It's like, all right, well, I don't feel it right now, you know, but I think it can come around, and just keep believing that. And it's like, I always talk about this when I talk about, you know, people when they feel like they're coming down with something or whatever. Like I've got to some point in life, maybe like 6 years ago or something, where if I started feeling a scratchy throat or something like that, and, you know, it used to be like, damn it, now I'm like, this is going to be another week of, you know, phlegm and whatever. And now I just go into these deep breathing exercises, and I just kind of like get my body going and trying to get going on all cylinders as much as possible and flush it out, or at least kind of stave it off before it has a chance to establish. And that's the kind of thing, you know, it's like mentally, the minute you get like a stuffy head or you know, something going on, that you're going to, you know, you just kind of go, damn, well, I'm screwed. And then you are screwed. It's like, I try not to let that happen. And it's had pretty good results with me, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I agree. I think so much of that is just all mental. And here's the thing: is like, even if it doesn't have like a direct effect, it has a direct effect on your mental and emotional state, which is more than half the battle. right? It's 66% of it if you break it down, mental, emotional, and physical. And it's just, there's so much goes to like the attitude. And so like if you, like I went while you were talking, his Centurion Decathlon is the 10 things he wants to be able to do when he turns 100 or in his last decade of life. And when as you were talking, I was looking at that, I was like, yeah, but if you're a person who plans to live to 100, I would have to guess that your likelihood of living to 100 is significantly greater than you not thinking you're to live to 100. Because then you don't act like it. You don't treat yourself like it. You're probably more negative about it. And I firmly believe that has a direct effect on both mental and physical health. And I find it really interesting, right? Because we talk a lot about, again, the podcast about physical health, but just emotional health and like how the words we use to say, or we choose to say about ourselves, but, pre-workout, post-workout, we're getting, we think we're about to get sick. Oh, here we go again. I'm about to get sick again. You're probably going to get sick, right? Everybody in my house has got it. I'm going down for the count. You're probably going to go down for the count. I'm going to have a terrible run today. You're probably going to have a terrible run. Like, yes. Can you speak everything into existence? No. Right. But I think you definitely, it's still an action, right? And I think all actions increase or decrease the likelihood of something to happen. And, so, working out and training and being positive and being around people and being out in nature, right? All of those increase your likelihood. Not doing all those things decrease it. Just like how we talk to ourselves. Are we being grateful? Are we being appreciative? Are we doing all those things? If you're not, then you're probably, it's all, to me, it's like, it's all self-fulfilling prophecy. All right. Today's gonna be the worst day. Like yesterday, for example, woke up super freaking early. Not nearly as much as way earlier than I wanted to. Walk downstairs. Again, no coffee alone. Father-in-law at the kitchen counter. Walk in there, I grab my cup of coffee, go sit on the couch, trying to relax for a second. And I hear Waffles whining. I'm like, what the fuck are you whining about? You don't ever whine. You're usually like dead quiet. Go in there, open up his crate, puke everywhere. Mm. And as a dog owner and lover, as you are, as much as we love them, that's like my thing. I'm like, oh my God, are you serious right now? This is not how I want to start my day. Not a solo cup of coffee, and I'm cleaning up dog puke all over the place at 10 till 5 in the morning on a Tuesday. And I stood up and I was like, you've got to be kidding me right now. Let him outside. Grab like a little bit of food, not much. He comes back in. He's like, of course, dog is like, smiling like he's my best friend. Like he just left me like, 2 freaking gold bricks in his crate. Didn't think anything about it. And I was like, and I just kind of said to myself, I said, ain't this some shit? And just kind of laughed a little bit. Ended up, went out, had a great run, had a really good, productive, positive day. But I was also this close to being like, going off and just losing my cool and being like, this is it. I'm out. I'm checking out. I'm over it. Someone else come clean this up. I can't do it. But instead, just with like a small, 5 to 10 second change of action or non-reaction or a different reaction, I legit think that I was able to alter the course of my attitude and then productivity and how my day ended up by just like those small. And I think we do that all the time. Like we talked about, majoring in the minors. And I think that's like a good example of majoring in the minors, of being able to do these things and being successful with it. So, and then just being, grateful about it. And I'm not grateful for a throw up, but still, you know what? If you're a dog owner and lover, it's just part of the course, part of the journey.
Yeah, I was just thinking that living to 100 concept, which, for most people, probably seems like the craziest thing ever, but to me, I feel like it, it's kind of like, that Roger Bannister 4-minute mile thing. The more people you see living to 100, the more it's like, well, maybe this is possible. Or like you go watch Iron Man and you're seeing people that look just like you doing it. It's like, huh. I say these are the things that we need to fill our belief system with, because, you know, I'm convinced. I mean, I'm not sure, but I think people, you know, from previous generations, I think they live well past 100, and then suddenly, you know, something happened or over the years. I mean, we don't really have, I mean, everything I see nowadays says we really don't have the cleanest view of history for some reason. And who's to say? I mean, it seems really weird that, you know, it's like, well, you know, 70 is your life. You know, it's like, I don't know. It just seems like a weird thing to stake your belief system on, you know, when, like you're saying, you can do things along the way and increase those chances. I mean, if your body's functioning well, why can't you just keep going, you know? I mean, I'm not saying that that's going to happen to me necessarily, but it's good to have a good positive mindset with that. And I'm seeing more. I mean, my Uncle Kenny turns 100 in January, and I went to talk to him the other day, or about a month ago, I guess, and he's just moving along. It's just like, all right, dude. You know, he's in an assisted living, but he's still doing good, and, you know, he's sharp. And you know, here's a guy who probably, you know, his whole thing was like, he was just a people person. You know, he interacted a lot, and, you know, that's why I love the crossword puzzle thing. It's just like his mind is still sharp, and I think that's what we talk about. No matter, you know, that's why I say a 20-minute run, man. That might be the ideal thing for me right now. It's just one of those things that kind of primes the body and keeps it moving the right direction. I think the more you overdo it, that can be you know, you got to be careful about that. And that's what I'm always careful about as I keep doing these Ironman races. You know, I think, you know, you can really kind of tap the well a little bit if you go too hard. So I'm always watching to make sure I'm doing maybe just that minimal effective dose on a lot of things. And hell, I've even translated that into my cold plunge, and I've got plunge zones now where it's like, last year I was going balls out, going in and trying to stay as long as I could. And I realized that, man, that does kind of take something out of you.
It's stress,
it's a
man.
stressful thing, you know.
Stress.
So I think you can get the adaptation pretty quick, especially now where there's the water's in the 30s. I don't need to stay in there too damn long, because I get in the sauna after a minute and a half, and it takes me 20 minutes to sweat. So I'm sure that something happens. You know, it's like crazy. So yeah, I do zone 1, 2, 3, 4 plunges. I mix it up. It's kind of a little training schedule I have. But anyway, the point is like, yeah, you can't always kill yourself, you know, but I think if you sort of prime the pump on a daily basis, that's probably the way to do it, you know, just to give yourself enough juice to feel good today, and then just do the same thing tomorrow. And like I said earlier, it's just be confident in feeling good. You don't have to be wore out, and you shouldn't.
Yeah, I was going to save this for, we can close it out here, but I was going to save this for a future email. I'd probably slide it in there too. But I heard a great line the other day that was about training. And it just goes right to what you said. And the phrase was, stimulate, don't obliterate. And I was like, man, that is like such a great line, because everyone is all about obliterating, right? You know, you're having a great run, go harder, go longer, be shelled, right? You're on your bike, smash yourself, right? You're in the pool, well, probably skip it for most people, but, you know, you get the point, right? Cold plunge, you know, 10 minutes is better than 2 minutes, right? I'm in the sauna for 5 minutes, 20 minutes is better. You know, all these things, it's like, you know, it's same thing with strength training. Like, go in there and you got people who can't walk for 2 weeks. And I love that line, because it just stimulate, don't obliterate. Because if you stimulate it, you're getting, like you said, the adaptation from it, you're getting the benefits from it, and then it just becomes, again, compound, right? You're just going to compound all these stimulating experiences, training, you know, the things that you're doing, other modalities, and be better out of the gate, instead of obliterating and not being able to do anything again until you come back, then you feel behind, then you obliterate again. I think it's just a really great line to kind of keep top of mind, again, as we're heading into the new year here in a little bit, as people try to make, you know, these drastic changes, and either go all in or totally abstain from, you know, whatever it is. You know, it's a little bit all the time goes goes so much further than, you know, all in very few of the time. And so it's all about how it adds up.
Yeah. And it's about testing the waters. And I think get in and see how it's going. Yeah. I mean, I am really good at calling audibles in the middle of a workout. Sometimes, that's why I just don't really pay attention to these devices and stuff like that. I'm always dialed in my body. And if I feel good, I might go a little bit longer. If I don't feel good, I might just call it a day or postpone it or whatever, And I know that's not real for a lot of people, but you got an hour to get your workout in, and that's all you got. But I think that's not a bad way to figure out something in life where you can kind of have a little more flexibility.
100%.
You know what I mean? It's like we don't have to spend our entire lives just staring at a screen in a cubicle. That to me is a real. Sometimes I really think about what people are doing in our lives. It's like, what are we doing? This is not how to live.
Yeah.
Man.
Talk about self-fulfilling prophecies, and this probably isn't one of them, but I feel like it kind of is. I don't remember who I was talking to this about a week or two ago, and they're talking about their life trajectory and things they wanted to do, or they were trying to get out of a job. And I said, still to this day at 44, I don't know how to tie a tie. I told myself this has been 15 years ago. I mean, when I was a much less wise, productive human being before I got sober, I remember telling myself, I was like, I never want to work a desk job. I never want to work for corporate whatever. I never want to have to wear a tie every day of my life, and I refuse to learn how to tie a tie. So is that problematic when I go to weddings and funerals? 100%. But right here, sitting in a hoodie, my long pants, talking to you, worked this morning in the same, hoodie and same pants. I think the little things like that, again, most people probably think that's just, that's just life. But I think little things like that, they go a long way, whether you subconsciously or consciously believe it or stick to it or all the time think about it. Everything we do or don't do matters. And this is a cumulative effect of one way or the other that, ends up dictating to a large degree the trajectory of our life and our health and our abilities, and what we're able or not able to do as we get older. So as you sit around and decide, what kind of cranberry sauce Aunt Mildred's bringing over for Thanksgiving, remember that no matter what she brings over, it is going to be a good day. You have a lot to be thankful for. And we are also, Mike and I are both, I'm sure I can speak for you too, we are very thankful for you, our listeners, and the feedback you give us, the emails, the messages, the participation in the Facebook group, seeing you guys at races, selfies, all the high fives on the race course. We are very grateful for you. We wouldn't be here without you. So we appreciate you all. And yeah, Mike, you too. It's funny how long we've been doing this.
Yeah, man.
And neither one of us get paid for it, but how much we love it. Not much. Well, I've never left a podcast feeling worse. So appreciate you and everything you do and our friendship.
Same. I got a email the other day, speaking of not getting paid for the podcast, from the guy that's trying to sell ads, get us to go ads. And I just said, well, what can we make on this thing if we did it? And he sent the number back, and I'm like, yeah, that's not worth putting ads in there. And,
no.
But again, it's sort of almost then it is something we love to do. And I think there's something to be said for that. That you have to, kind of create things that you love to do. And that alone, solves a lot of issues. And I think that can translate into training, figure out the way you love it. And, the sort of things, we've been doing this almost 10 years or something, and everything else kind of just sort of took care of itself when you convince yourself to do something you love. So there it is.
There it is.
Thanksgiving food for thought.
That's it. Put this on probably 18 to 20 volume notch around the old Thanksgiving table. Let it marinate in the room, and we can impact your feast in a positive way. But as always, we love you guys. We appreciate you. Go to our website, c26triathlon.com. It's our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. If you need anything from Mike, he's there for you. Mike at c26triathlon.com. Or if you need anything from me specifically, Robbie at c26triathlon.com.
All right, man. Have a great Thanksgiving. And
you too, man. We'll
check
you next week.
All right. See ya.